unboxing video with RockIt RC. Today we will have a closer look at the Latrax SST. Here's a little background story on Latrax. Under the Traxxas company, Latrax was first founded in 1974. It was only recently brought back to offer brand new style of cars, the 1/18 scale vehicles, at a very reasonable price point. Traxxas products have the advantage of having a huge service and parts support. In mid-2013, for the reboot, Latrax introduced the Rally, a four-wheel drive on-road car. It was fun, inexpensive, and the race club started racing this as a form of mini-class. Traxxas also had a mini-scale fleet of cars, the 1/16 scale mini Revo, the Slash, the Summit, and even the monster truck based on the Monster Jam series. The difference was that the 1/16 was not only the scale, but also it was using inboard shocks rather than the standard upright shocks, the vertical shocks. Latrax is using the standard shock system, so you'll be more familiar with the driving style, definitely different from the inboard shocks, which felt a bit softer. Latrax introduced a vehicle with longer arms and suspension, the Teton, a monster truck style, as well as the SST, which is a short course style or desert truck style. The Latrax even introduced its first multicopter or multi-rotor, the direct competition to Dromeda's quads, so it was called the Latrax Alias. For this unboxing, we're looking at a closer look at the Latrax SST, the Sheldon Creed edition. It is similar to a Teton, so it's in the same range of design. It's sharing common parts. The SST comes ready to run with a 2.4 gig radio, a 6-cell NIMH battery, a NIM battery, with the wall charger, so it's not the best charger. It'll take hours to charge, maybe 6 hours or overnight, so you might want to end up with a better charger, so consider that in your purchase. It also comes with splash-proof electronics, a mini brushed motor, a 4x4 shaft-driven setup, monster truck-sized oil shocks, a taller shock tower, the longer A-arms, all of which are coming from the Teton. The main difference here is the body style and the wheels. The truck comes with a nice manual with explosion view of the parts, the part numbers, and setup tips. The truck construction is robust for the category of car. There are tougher cars. This one could break, but it's really not that bad. On the rally car, the servo and the transmitter, they were somehow a problem, and they still are. The servo for this category or this size of car is not strong at all. It's plastic gears. They will eventually break, and you will have to consider finding a replacement. So I strongly advise, if it does happen, to look for a Metal Gear digital servo, such as High-Tech, Spectrum, or Savox, or something in that style. It's gonna have to be the same design, the same style-ish, and you might have to do a small modification to make it fit with the servo mount. You will have to use the servo horn that comes with your servo. There's a chance that the stock one might not work anymore, so just go with the one that comes with your servo. The antenna-less radio, it's pretty cool. It's using only 4 AA batteries that will last quite a while. The problem is that it only has the one trim, the steering trim. So you don't have the other type of trim, you don't have a throttle trim, or more importantly, the dual steering rate, or any of, like fine-tuning like that. The issue with the Latrax Rally in this case meant that the car turned on a dime. It was very nervous, was twitchy. You only need to steer with very light movements, and sometimes it's hard, especially for kids, to just keep very, very light and precise movements. They tend to want to just steer a lot, so the car would just bump on the left and the right. The rear of the car would also tend to slip, so it would basically oversteer. You would have to play with the setup in order to reduce that oversteering. Maybe use some tire compound to soften the rear tires and to try to get more traction. The traction problem wasn't as obvious on the Teton or the short course or SST. I drove a Teton, and the truck has a wider arm and different tires. By the way, no foam in the insert inside the tires for both the Teton and the SST. They drive better, they see more balance than the Rally on the road, and the SST, like all the mini-sized RC car, doesn't work well in tall grass or thick snow, so you want to use a surface that is scaled to that truck. It's not a 110 scale, it's a 118. Another odd thing that the tires don't use a nut, but they use rather a hex screw to hold them. It's a specific screw, so you might want to pick up a spare of that. They also use some mini Phillips screws all around on the truck, so that's a little bit unusual. They're just like smaller size Phillips, so make sure you have your favorite Phillips mini driver to work on the car. Here are more important improvements that I noticed for the SST. The battery and the speed control, or the ESC, the connectors are Traxxas. No more Tamiya plugs. The Rally car was using this infamous Tamiya plug. The Rally came with bushing and plastic gears, so once you would drive it for a week and the bushings would wear down really fast and you would end up buying for $20 worth of ball bearings. But for the same price, the SST comes with the full set of ball bearings. That's about 15 pieces. Some metal gears around the upgrades around the transmission, which was also an upgrade, an option before. The plastic gear will eventually wear off, so get used to replace them. At least the mechanics is fairly simple to access. It won't be a nightmare like some other cars. It is still a level 1 car, so it shouldn't be too hard to work on. From my experience with the Teton, these trucks are more balanced from front to back, more so than the 116 minis, and they look better when jumping. In comparison, the Traxxas Mini Summit would plunge the nose while jumping. Now, I mentioned the part support is not an issue for the Latrax. Parts are plenty and they're cheap. The shocks might be one other part that would go next eventually. Fortunately, Latrax offers the aluminum upgrade. It is the aluminum GTR shocks. They're really awesome. For the Rally, they also make it for the Teton and the SST. So Teton and SST, obviously the same model of the GTR shocks. This is not uncommon to see the speed control burn out on these models. I'm not sure how it would handle lipos. I've seen friends try a lipo and the speed control could fry. There is a possibility, even if some cases they advertise it's lipo ready. I've seen even 110 scale trucks not being able to handle stuff. But if it happens, you may want to replace your speed control with a 110 scale, maybe something with a small footprint, maybe a splash-proof speed control. For instance, in my Rally, I've been using the LRP AI, which is splash-proof and very small footprint brushed speed control. You might still want to upgrade the speed control for the following reason. If you have your own transmitter, for instance, Futaba, Spectrum, or FlySky or some other brand, the stock speed control will most likely not work with your system. It's kind of odd, you have to try it for yourself, but in many cases it might not work at all. It seems the electronics were designed in such a way, or it's just weird. We were racing the Rally and many of us had to replace the speed control in order to install our own radios and our own receivers. Otherwise it would just not work with the speed control, like it wasn't responsive the right way. So an alternative is to look for a Traxxas TQI radio. That's kind of like a plan B if you want. If you have one kicking around, it should be able to bind to the receiver, the Latrax receiver. The advantage is that it's going to give you the multifunction button, so you can use it as an additional trimming for a dual steering rate or whatever other function you want to use it for. The Latrax SST has a lot of pros and many cons, but in the end, the platform is inexpensive, it's easy and fun. In spite of anything, I still recommend the Latrax for those reasons, and knowing what will require attention through usage, I'm looking at it and it looks like a baby Slash and I love it. So if short course is your thing, you could also look at other alternatives. There is the Dromeda DT 4.18, really good truck, really good support that comes from Hobbico. There is Associated RC18. I believe they discontinued the SC18 version, so the short course might not be available. Traxxas /116 scale, that's the other older design with the inboard shocks. If you like that style, the little Revos and the Slash. Or the ECX Torment 118, that's the popular models. There are some other ones out there, but that's it for now. I hope you like this unboxing, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.